Unknown number calling. Just as quickly as you glance at the phone screen, you ignore the call. There's never a real person on the other end those calls anyways. After you place your phone back in your pocket, you continue with grocery shopping. While browsing the produce section, the phone buzzes again with an incoming call. Unknown number, again. This time, you figure there must be a person if they are called again. So you answer with only the intent to ask to be removed from whatever list you are on. Hello? As you originally expected, an automated voice responds, "Thank you for participating. The rules are simple. Complete at least 2 of the 3 tasks provided. You will qualify for the grand prize. Failure will have consequences equal to the complexity of the task you are given. Your first task will be sent to you by text in 2 minutes. Best of luck, candidate." The call ends before you have a chance to respond. Obviously, it's a group of teenagers in the store with you, playing an elaborate prank using AI or an app. You scan the area searching for snickering teens in a corner with their phones out. However, the only people around you are the handful of customers shopping for groceries just like yourself. The phone buzzes once again in your hand, this time with a text. Task number 1. Steal the wallet from the woman browsing the apples. Curious, you glance over at the shelves containing the different varieties of apples displayed. Carefully viewing a red apple was a small, elderly woman. She was seated in one of the electric shopping carts provided by the store for patrons who are less mobile. Right on top of her item sat a wallet. Stealing it would be easy. She's so invested into the apples you could be on the other side of the store before she is even aware it's gone. Shameful at yourself for even entertaining the idea, you delete the text and shove your phone back in your pocket. You brush off the whole thing as a practical joke and carry on with your shopping. A familiar buzz catches your attention as you are walking by the meat and deli counter. Annoyed now, you pick up the phone without checking the caller ID. "Whoever this is, I am so not in the mood for your games. I am especially not committing any crimes. Leave me alone." Then you disconnect the call. The phone rings again while it was still in your hand. It feels like the world around you stops as you glance at the caller ID. Grandma. Your chest aches in despair. Grandma died just 2 weeks ago, and you haven't had the heart to delete her number yet. She was more like a mother to you than a grandmother, raising you since you were just a baby. Mom and Dad passed away when you were a baby, and she was the only family you had. With shaky hands, you answer the call. Wailing pierces your ears through static on the other end. It sounds like your grandmother on the night Grandpa died just a month prior to her death. They were high school sweethearts, and his death broke her heart. It was hard to hear her hurt like that. A tear rolls down your cheek as you stand frozen in place in the middle of the aisle. Listening, the wailing fades and a familiar automated voice cuts through the static. Participation is mandatory. Failure to comply will result in termination. A response manages to quietly choke out of your throat. "You are threatening to kill me if I don't play into your games?" What kind of sick shit is this? This is not a game. You failed to complete the first task. Your punishment will be delivered shortly. The line cut out immediately. Still in shock from hearing the sound of your dead grandmother's voice, you almost missed the sound of running footsteps behind you. As you turn to look, a man suddenly tackles you to the ground. Everything from your pockets spill out on the floor, and your phone slides under the nearest shelf. You scream for help at the top of your lungs as the man grabs one of the items from your pockets, your wallet. He is already reaching the emergency exit by the time someone helps you to your feet. An employee hands you a courtesy water as he spoke to the police on his phone. Shakily, you walk around searching for your own phone. Its loud vibration under the shelf helps you locate it. Unknown caller is displayed on the screen as you answer. You will receive the second task by text in 2 minutes. Friendly reminder, complete the task or suffer the consequences. Best of luck, candidate. More tears begin rolling down your cheeks as you move the phone away from your ears. As promised, your second task is received by text. Your second task will need to be completed within the next 10 minutes. Order a ribeye from the butcher at the meat counter and eat the whole thing in front of him. Vomiting will result in a failure. Time starts when you finish reading this text. Did the caller know you have been a devout vegan for the past 10 years? It's not necessarily private information, but this would mean they know more about you than you know about them. This small fact made you feel uneasy. Nausea creeps its way into your stomach as you gaze upon the animal carcasses laid out in trays at the meat counter. It felt impossible enough to try to consume cooked meat, but the idea of raw meat was You decided you would at least try. With bile threatening to escape through your throat, you nervously approach the meat counter. The butcher greets you with a smile. "What can I get ya, little lady?" A ribeye, please. The smallest you have. The caller never specified it had to be a certain size. Might as well make it as easy as possible. "Sure thing. It's on the house today. I saw that creep steal your wallet just a moment ago. Hopefully, this will make your day a little brighter." You wished that was true. After weighing the ribeye, the butcher carefully wraps the steak and hands it over. There's an awkward moment of silence between you as your eyes are fixated on the meat in your hands. He's about to inquire if you were okay before you suddenly begin unraveling the packaging of the ribeye and hold it in your bare hands. You take a deep breath, close your eyes, and take your first bite. Confusion and mild disgust settle on the butcher's face as he watches you bite into the raw steak. The texture is easier to chew than you imagined it would be. The red myoglobin mixture squeezes from the steak and onto your tongue with every bite. You keep the chewing to a minimum as the urge to vomit intensifies. After 3 more bites, you are both devastated and relieved when your stomach wins the battle. There's no time to reach a trash can, nor did you think there was any nearby. The butcher watches in horror as the contents of your stomach are emptied onto the floor. "Lady, I know you had a scary experience, but this is too much. You need to go." Embarrassed at the scene you created, you hurry off to the front of the store. As you exit the sliding glass doors, your phone rings. You have failed your second task. By failing 2 of the 3 tasks, you are automatically disqualified. The final punishment will be delivered by text once this call is disconnected. Thank you again for participating. We hope this has been an experience you will never forget. Goodbye. Dumbfounded, you stare at your phone until the awaited text arrives. You have 30 seconds to choose one of 2 options for your punishment. Throw yourself in front of the approaching garbage truck or choose another. Time starts now. Panic sets in as you hear the sound of a garbage truck off to your left. It is approaching at a fast speed. The driver is also distracted and not paying attention to any pedestrians in the parking lot. When you glance to your right, the elderly woman riding in the electric shopping cart from the produce section is exiting the building at the same time. Without time to think, you quickly grab the delicate woman and drag her from the cart. She yells out for help and struggles in your grasp, but you are much stronger and nobody nearby will get to you in time to rescue her. Right as the garbage truck reaches the front of the store, you manage to shove her just in time for her to fall right in its path. Her screams of pain and crunching of bones are too much and too loud. Desperately, you cover your ears to dull the sound. The truck finally stops and her screams are replaced by the sound of sirens. You hear the officers rushing over to the operator of the garbage truck. Just as the driver points in your direction, you feel the ground below you rumble. The cement begins to chip and crack under your feet, a reddish-orange glow peeking through. Fear keeps you frozen in place as clawed hands reach through the cracks and grasp your ankles. One last scream escapes as you are pulled through, never to be seen again.
In this new house, my younger brother tied a rope to the roof with a ball attached to it that hangs there constantly. He hits it with his bat and plays all day because he has no friends in this new place, and I never feel like playing with him. Because of the noise of his cricket, I can't even study. He never gets tired and keeps at it the whole day. On top of that, a cat has started coming to our house lately, and he has kept it inside. Now, more than the clicking of cricket, a heavy meowing echoes through the house. One day, I was getting ready for college with my books when it suddenly clung to my leg. I jerked my leg away, not that I wanted to do it, but it just happened. The cat went flying and hit the wall, then sat there looking stunned. When I went near it, it ran away. For many days after that, it stayed afraid of me. I was sitting up at midnight studying. I felt thirsty and went toward the kitchen to get water. On my way back, I found that tiger-like cat sitting there. It was sitting there without moving, just watching me, as if it were reading me. I stroked its head, and it wasn't afraid of me. I made a ball out of paper and threw it toward the cat, and it started picking it up in its mouth and bringing it back to me. It's strange. I noticed today that it doesn't seem to walk right. It moves with its hips hunched up. After a while, I went back to my studies. The next day, when I returned from my college, the cat started clinging to my feet as if welcoming me home. I petted him and gave him some milk to drink. After dinner, I was heading to my room when the cat stopped me. He had a paper ball in his mouth. I took it and started throwing it hard, back and forth. I watched as I threw it, but he couldn't seem to catch it. My mother, sitting behind me knitting clothes, was laughing at all this. "Mom, look at how he's walking," I said. "Yes, just like you used to walk as a baby, before you had learned how to walk," she replied. I began to laugh. Then I started throwing even harder, all around the house. He just couldn't catch it. "I have to go study now. Here is the last ball," I shouted. "Catch it." As I threw the ball straight at him. To catch it, he stood up on his hind legs, but the ball passed right in front of him. I turned back to laugh with my mother, but she had stopped knitting. Her hands were trembling. Her eyes were wide with terror, and her mouth hung open. "What happened to you?" I asked. The needle slipped from her hands, and she screamed at the top of her lungs. "Get it out. Get it out of here." I turned around to look, and that cat was standing on both its legs. He turned back and picked up the ball with both his hands. Before I could even process what was happening, he dropped the ball, fell onto his back, and began to laugh loudly while clutching his stomach. His voice was bizarre, like a mixture of a lion's roar and a human's laugh. The lights in the hall began to flicker and surge. "This is not a cat," my mother said, looking at me. As I slowly started walking toward it, all the lights went out and a total, dead silence fell over the house. I switched on my torch, and the cat was gone. I shone the torch behind me. My mom had vanished from her chair. I flashed my torch wildly, screaming, "Mom, Mom." Just then, I heard someone's voice. I turned and shone the torch, only to see that my brother had been dragged there, his neck tied with the same rope he had used to attach the ball. The torch slipped from my hands, and I rushed to save my brother. I lifted him with all my strength and screamed for him to untie the knot, but his weight kept dragging him down. The rope wouldn't open either. I began looking around for a chair, but my brother was thrashing his arms and legs, and I was breaking into a cold sweat. Just then, the sound of the rope tightening even further echoed. Warm drops began falling onto my hands, and then he stopped struggling. Right then, I heard my mom scream. "Mom," I screamed, running downstairs and then back up, but my mother was nowhere to be found. Then suddenly I remembered. The house had a basement we had never explored. I went there and found that the locked one we had put on ourselves was missing. I slowly opened the heavy door. The wind and dust swirled so violently that it was hard to see anything. I brushed away the spider webs and began to descend the wooden stairs, which felt like they would snap at any moment. A foul, terrible stench was rising from below. Just then, a ball hit me in the face. It was made of paper. I shone my torch, and there sat that cat, staring intensely at me. My heart hammered against my ribs. My fingers refused to stay steady. Still, gathering my courage, I asked hesitantly, "Where is my mother?" He leaped down, and as he stood up on his legs, he grew to the size of a full-grown man until he was standing right in front of me. He played, he called. "I came," he said, "but He placed his hand on his bloated stomach and began to laugh loudly. Something shifted inside him, as if trying to move. I looked down. My mother's clothes and glasses lay at his feet. The rain didn't wash away the blood. It just smeared it across the pavement like a watercolor of Mason's failures. Mason sat in his car. The glow of the dashboard was the only light in the desolate alley. His phone buzzed. There was no caller ID. Mason knew the vibration before he even looked. It was a rhythmic, taunting hum that had haunted him for a decade. "Hello, detective," the voice whispered. The voice was smooth, like silk over a razor blade. "Where are you?" Mason's voice was a gravelly wreck. "I'm in the memory of your mother's kitchen." The voice the orchestrator purred. "I'm in the smell of the gunpowder that took your partner, Miller. I'm the director, Mason. You're just the lead actor who can't seem to find his mark." Mason gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. The orchestrator didn't just kill people, he curated them. He turned grief into a symphony and Mason into his most devoted audience member. Every lead that Mason followed, every lucky break in the case, felt like it was handed to him on a silver platter wrapped up in barbed wire. "I found the warehouse," Mason hissed. "Of course you did," the orchestrator laughed. "I left the door unlocked. Come in, Mason. The final act is starting, and you're late for your cue." Mason stormed into the abandoned canning factory on the edge of town. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and copper. He followed the sound of a ticking clock through a maze of rusted machinery until he reached a single spotlighted chair in the center of the room. His heart stopped. Tied to the chair was Linda, his younger sister, the only piece of his heart that the orchestrator hadn't touched yet. "Linda," Mason screamed, rushing forward. Unfortunately, a glass barrier he hadn't seen slammed into his shoulder. Mason was in a viewing gallery. He was the audience. From the shadows, a figure emerged. He was dressed in a pristine suit, his face obscured by a mask that seemed to shift and blur. The orchestrator, he leaned down and whispered something into Linda's ear. She looked up, her eyes wide with terror, catching Mason's gaze through the glass. "No, stop it." Mason pounded on the reinforced pane. "You did so well, Mason." The orchestrator's voice echoed through a speaker above. "You followed every breadcrumb. You played your part perfectly. You thought that you were hunting me, but you were just walking yourself to the front row seat." The orchestrator stepped behind the chair, a silhouette of calculated malice. Mason's screams were muffled by the reinforced glass, his hands bloody from pounding against the barrier. Mason watched in a state of paralyzed, psychological torment as the life was taken from the last person whom he loved. A final act orchestrated with cruel precision. The glass barrier suddenly slid open with a hiss. Mason stumbled into the room, collapsing beside Linda. The silence that followed was heavier than the screams. He looked up at the figure standing in the shadows, the man who had pulled every string in his life. "Why?" Mason managed to choke out through the crushing weight of his grief. "My mother, my partner, my sister. Why did you do all of this?" The orchestrator tilted his head, his voice through the speakers, sounding almost bored, and he said, "Because, Mason, it amused me to watch a man of your supposed intellect do exactly what was expected of him. You weren't a detective, you were a protagonist, in a story that was already written long ago. Thank you for playing your part, Mason." Before Mason could move, the orchestrator seemed to dissolve into the darkness of the warehouse, leaving behind only the faint scent of ozone and the cold reality of Mason's loss. Mason remains out there in the city, moving through the rain and the shadows. Every ringing phone is a reminder of the hunt that hasn't ended. The orchestrator believes that the play has reached its curtain call, but the search continues. One day, the detective will find the director, and the cycle of manipulation will finally be broken. The end.